We are starting the chapter 5, Morphology of Flowering Plants. The wide range in the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us, even though the angiosperm shows such a large diversity in external structure or morphology. They are all characterized by presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers and fruits. In chapter 2 or 3, we talked about classification of plants based on morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at classification and at understanding any higher plant, or for that the matter any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definition. We also need to know about the possible variation in different parts found as adaptation of the plant to their environment. Example, adaptation to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have root, stem and leaves. They may be bearing flowers and fruits. Underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground forms the shoot system. Understood? The root. In majority of the dicotyledonous plants, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several orders that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system. Primary root and its branches constitute the taproot system, as seen in the mustard plant. Mustard plant consists of taproot system. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived and is replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system, as seen in the wheat plant. In some plants like grass, monstera and the banyan tree, root arise from the part of the plant other than the radicle and are called adventitious roots. The main function of the root system are absorption of water and mineral from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food material and synthesis of plant growth regulators. Next, rinds of the roots. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the rind of meristematic activity. The cells of this rind are very small, thin-walled and with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this rind undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. This rind is called the rind of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, these zones proximal to the rind of elongation is called rind of maturation. From this rind, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structure called root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and mineral from the soil. Next is the stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is the ascending part of the axis, bearing branches, leaves, flowers and fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. The stem bears nodes and internodes. The rind of the stem where leaves are borne are called nodes, while internodes are the portions between two nodes. The stem bears buds which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and lateral often become woody and dark brown. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flowers and fruits. It conducts water, minerals and photosynthesis. Some stem perform the function of storage of food, support, protection and of vegetative propagation. Next is the leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristem and are arranged in an acropetal order. Leaf is lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristem and are arranged in an acropetal order. They are most important vegetative organ for photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf base, petiole and lamina. The leaf attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structures called stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expands into a sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called the pulvinous. The petiole help hold the blade to light. Long, thin, flexible petioles allow leaf blades to flutter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to leaf surface. The lamina or the leaf blade is the green expanded part of the leaf with veins and ventlets. There is usually a middle prominent vein which is known as the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channel of transport for water, mineral and food materials. Vein provides rigidity to the leaf blade. The shape, margin, apex, surface and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. Next is venation. The arrangement of the veins and ventlets in the lamina of leaf is termed a venation. When the ventlets form a network, the venation is termed as reticulate. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed parallel. Leaves of dicotyledonous plant generally possesses reticulate venation, while parallel venation is the characteristic of most monocotyledons type of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. The incision do not touch the midrib. When the incision of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking into a number of leaflets, the leaf is called compound. A bud is present in the axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaf. In simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of the leaflets of the compound leaf. The compound leaves may be of two types. In a pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on a common axis. The rachis, which represent the midrib of the leaf, as in neem, that is pinnatically. In palmatically compound leaves, the leaflets are attached to a common point that is at the tip of petiole. That is silk cotton, as in silk cotton, which is example. Okay. Now next is phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. This is usually of three types: alternate, opposite and hold. In alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner, as in China rose, mustard, and sunflower plants. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other, as in Calotropis and guava plant. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whole, it is called whorled, as in Alstonia. Next is the inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tips transform into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of the floral on the floral axis is termed inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow. Two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession, which you can remember by racemose. रेस में ए आता है तो acropetal succession. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in basipetal order. You can remember it, cymose, C के पहले B आता है तो इसमें basipetal order होता है. Next is the flower. The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperm. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has 4 different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organ, while androecium and gynoecium are the reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is unisexual. Flower having either only stamen or only carpel is unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into 2 equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Actinomorphic example है mustard, datura, chili, MCD, mustard, chili, datura. When it can be divided into 2 similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic. Example is Pegubica, P. gulmohar, bin Cacia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular if it cannot be divided into 2 similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in Kanna. Are Kanna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in the multiple of 3, 4, 5 respectively. Flowers with bracted reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel are bracted, and those without bracts are ebracted. Based on the position of the calyx, corolla and androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous in figure 5.9. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flower is said to be superior. Example, mustard, China rose and brinjal, which you can remember it by MCB. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus, almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be the half inferior. Example, rose, peach, plum. In epigynous flowers, the margin of the thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of the flower arise above the ovary, hence the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flowers of guava and cucumber, and the ray florets of sunflower are example of epigynous flower. Next, parts of flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral rolls, which calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. The calyx is the outermost roll of the flower, and the members are called sepals. Calyx is the outermost roll of the flower and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, that is, sepals are united, or polysepalous, that is, sepals are free. Understood? Next is corolla. Corolla is composed of petals, which you can remember by CP. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be gamopetalous, that is petal united, or polypetalous, that is petals are free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped or wheel-shaped. Next is estivation. The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral bud with respect to other member of the same roll is known as estivation. The main type of estivation are valvate, twisted, imbricate and vexillary. When sepals or petals in a whole just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropous, it is said to be valvate. If one margin of the appendage overlap that of the next one and so on, as in China rose, ladyfinger and cotton, it is called twisted, which you can remember by cochinilla. If the margin of sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, the estivation is called imbricate, which you can remember by ikkagul, imbricate, cassia, gulmohar. In pea and bean flowers, there are 5 petals. The largest standard overlaps the 2 lateral petals, wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals. Kill. This type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionoecious. Next is androecium. Androecium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has 2 chambers. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has 2 chambers. The pollen sacs. The pollen grain are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. Stamens of flowers may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petal, they are epipetalous, as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth, as in the flowers of lily. The stamen in a flower may either remain free, that is polyandrous, or may be united in varying degrees. The stamen may be united into one bunch or one bundle, that is monodelphous, as in China rose, or two bundles, that is diadelphous as in pea, or into more than two bundles, that is polydelphous as in citrus. Monodelphous in China rose, MCR. Diadelphous in pea and polydelphous in citrus. There may be variation in the length of the filament within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. Next is gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of three parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Ovary is the enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for pollen grains. Each ovary bears one or more ovule attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. Lotus and rose and are called as apocarpus. They are termed syncarpus when carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. Mustard and tomato means syncarpus. Apocarpus, lotus and rose, which you can remember by Lara. Lotus, rose, apocarpus. Syncarpus का example है mustard and tomato. After fertilization, ovule develop into seed and ovary matures into a fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of the ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and free central. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and the ovules are borne on this ridge, forming two rows, as in P. When the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be the axial, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. Lechinto, which you can remember example of axial. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. In parietal placentation, the ovule develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one-chambered, but it becomes two-chambered due to the formation of the false septum, example mustard and argemone, which you can remember by argemone. When the ovules are borne on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called free central, which you can remember by tipri-free. Dianthus, primrose, free central. In basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of the ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower and marigold. Basal का example is sunflower and marigold. The fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plant. It is a mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a whole or pericarp and seeds. Whole or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When the pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp and the middle mesocarp and the inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as drupe. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries, and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and an inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. The seed. The ovule after fertilization develop into seed. A seed is made up of seed coat and an embryo. Seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radical and embryogenical axis and one as in wheat, maize, or two cotyledons as in gram and pea. Understood? One in wheat and maize, two cotyledon as in gram and pea. Structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and the inner tegmen. The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seed were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo consisting of an embryonal axis and the two cotyledon. The cotyledon are often fleshy and full of reserved food material. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and the plumule. Radicle and plumule. In some seeds, such as in castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called the endospermic seeds. In some seeds, such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seeds in the castor. In plants such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seeds and such seeds are called non-endospermous. Endosperm गायब in पेगुबी, पी ग्राम पिन. ठीक है, कस्टूर में एंडोस्पर्म होता है. Structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. Orchid जो है वो non-endospermic है और monocotyledonous seed है. बाकी generally monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic होती है. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinous layer called alluron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and a short axis with plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheath which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. Plumule, patile, radicle, rhiza. You can remember it by that. Semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief in simple and scientific language and presented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habit, vegetative character, root, stem and leaves, and then flower, then floral characters, inflorescence and flower parts. After describing various parts of plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. The floral formula is represented by some symbols. In the floral formula, BR stands for bracteate, K stands for calyx, C for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium, G for gynoecium, and G के नीचे बार for superior ovary and G के ऊपर बार मतलब inferior ovary. गोले के ऊपर साइन तो मेल, गोले के नीचे प्लस तो फीमेल, गोले के नीचे प्लस और ऊपर एरो तो बाइसेक्सुअल प्लांट्स, और गोले के अंदर प्लस इज फॉर एक्टिनोमॉर्फिक एंड % का साइन आ गया तो जाइगोमॉर्फिक नेचर ऑफ फ्लावर. Fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure within the bracket and addition by a line drawn above the symbols of the floral parts. A floral diagram provides information about the number of parts of flower, their arrangement and the relationship they have with one another. The position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium are drawn in successive rows. Calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being in the center. Floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion within parts of the rolls and between rolls. The floral diagram and floral formula in figure 5.16 represent the mustard plant, that is Brassicacia. Thus Solanaceae. I am reading the floral diagram for मस्टर्ड प्लांट का फ्लोरल फार्मूला है गोले के अंदर प्लस बाइसेक्सुअल गोला नीचे प्लस ऊपर एरो के नीचे 2+2 सी के नीचे 4 ए 2+4 जी के नीचे बार और 2 ब्रैकेट में क्लॉज. नाउ द नेक्स्ट इज सोलेनेशिया. It is a large family commonly called as the potato family. It is widely distributed in tropics, subtropics and even temperate zones. Vegetative characters. The plants mostly herbs, shrubs and rarely small trees. Stem herbaceous, rarely woody, aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched, solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous. Underground stem in potatoes, Solanum tuberosum. Leaves are alternate, simple, rarely pinnatically compound, stipulate, venation, reticulate. Floral characters. Inflorescence is solitary, axillary or cymose as in Solanum, and floral, bisexual, actinomorphic. Calyx, sepal 5, united, persistent, velvet, estivation. Corolla, petals 5, united, velvet, estivation. Androecium is stamens 5 and epipetalous. Gynoecium is bicarpellary, obligated plus syncarpus, ovaries superior, bilocular, placenta, swollen with many ovules. Exile. Fruit is berry or capsule, seeds many and endospermous. Floral formula is प्लस गोले के अंदर प्लस गोला नीचे प्लस ऊपर एरो बाइसेक्सुअल मीन्स ओके ब्रैकेट में 5 के अंदर क्लॉज है 5 ब्रैकेट में है सी के नीचे 5 ब्रैकेट में क्लॉज ए विथआउट ब्रैकेट है 5 ए के नीचे और सी और ए दोनों जुड़े हैं एक एरो से मतलब ब्रिज से और जी के नीचे बार और 2 ब्रैकेट में क्लॉज है जी के पास सब ब्रैकेट में है बस ए के नीचे जो 5 है वो ब्रैकेट में नहीं है. दिमाग में उतार दिया फ्लोरल फार्मूला किसका सोलेनेशिया फैमिली का. Economic importance. Many plants belonging to this family are source of food, that is tomato, brinjal and potato, spice, that is chili, medicine, that is belladonna and ashwagandha, and fumigatory, that is tobacco, and ornamental, that is petunia. Summary I am going to read in the speedy way. Flowering plant exhibit enormous variation in shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, lifespan, habit and habitat. They have well-developed root and shoot system. Root system is either taproot or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plants have taproot system while monocotyledonous plants have a fibrous root system. MF. The roots in some plants get modified for storage for food, mechanical support and respiration. The shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flowers and fruit. The morphological features of stems, like the presence of knots and interknots, multicellular hair and positively phototropic nature, help to differentiate the stems from root. Leaf is a lateral outgrowth of stem developed exogenously at the nodes. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibit marked variation in their shape, size, margin, apex, and extent of insertion of leaf blade, lamina. The flower is a modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescence. They exhibit enormous variation in structure, symmetry, position of ovary in relations to other parts, arrangement of petals, sepals, ovals, etc. After fertilization, the ovary is modified into fruit and ovule develop into seed. Seeds either may be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size, and period of viability. The floral characteristics form the basis of classification and identification of flowering plant. The floral characteristics forms the basis of classification and identification of flowering plants. This can be illustrated through semi-technical descriptions of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described in a definite sequence by using scientific terms. The floral features are represented in the summarized form as floral diagrams and floral formula. With this, we complete the chapter Morphology of Flowering Plants. Thank you.